Hello, Year 3. Nice to see you. So yesterday we were thinking all about money then, and we kind of summed up all of our work on money, and we did our hot task on money. So that does mean, of course, it's time for a new unit, which we're going to begin now. We're also going to do a little bit of a recap of one thing you'll have learned about this unit in Year 2 as well. So a really sort of quick bit of recap. So we're going to try and kill two birds with one stone today. We're going to do cold task and also a little bit of revision. So our next maths unit is, hopefully you've listened out. Actually, I've dropped a few, I was going to say clues, but I think actually what I mean is I've told you a few times in previous videos this week, so you might already have remembered this. Our next unit is statistics. So have a think then, what do you already know about statistics? Where have you seen that word before? And I'm really hoping you'll have an answer to that, because we've seen it quite a lot this week. So have a quick pause of the video and a chat at home. What do we understand statistics to mean? Where have we seen it before? What do we understand about it? What have you learned in Year 2 to do with statistics? Have a stop, have a think, have a chat. Okay, so then we know that statistics are number facts, and it's all about presenting and showing those number facts. So it can be about gathering data. That means counting things, collecting up information on things, and also presenting that data in different ways. When I talk about data, I'm talking about numbers there really. So data might be how many of something there are, how many times you've seen something, all of that is statistics. Now, that might all sound still a little bit confusing and a bit conceptual. So I can understand if you're still kind of scratching your head a little bit, wondering what all of this means. So let's actually have a more practical example. Here is, maybe Mr. Vass has dropped some toys and things on the floor. Here they all are. I want you to have a look at that big pile of shapes. If I wanted to know how many of each shape I had dropped, how could you present that data? Bit of a tricky question, that. Have a pause of the video, and I'd actually like you to spend not just kind of 30 seconds on this, but try to spend a few minutes on this if you can. Try to really think, right, how can we actually present this data? Is there more than one way of doing it? How are you going to actually write down the information that you've got? Yes, we can count them up fairly quickly, but how can you actually show me that information? How can you present that data to me? Spend a few minutes now having a good think about that, and then we'll come back and we'll look through some of the ways you may have done it, and therefore some of the ways that we're going to be looking at over the next few days and weeks. Okay, so let's just kind of start off in its most basic form then. Could we make a table showing the different information we have? If you had really no idea when you last paused the video and you didn't write anything down, you could actually stop here and you could fill in this table. That would be really handy. And we're going to get this, aren't we? We're going to write down the total. So this would be a really simple way that we could display this information. We could have written a table where I've got a heading here that says objects, and I've got my 3 objects here, and then I've got the number. So I can read this table, I can see, right, the orange one, there's 3 of those, the green square, there's 5 of those, and the red triangle, there's 5 of those. You might have made a tally chart. Now, this is something we're going to be revising today really briefly, because I know that you'll have done that in Year 2, but this is one way we could have presented the information. That's an example of some statistics that we could have used. We could have made something called a pictogram. And again, I know this is something you've worked on already in Year 2, so maybe 1 or 2 of you thought to make one of these. And this is where we use pictures instead of numbers to represent how many of something we had. So this is obviously showing that in this case I had 3 of the orange circles, 5 of the green ones, and 5 of the red ones. It's not always the case that one picture in our pictogram equals 1 for our count, and we'll look more about that as the week goes on, but this is one way we could have presented that. Were there any other ways we could have presented the information? Maybe you were thinking about this at home. Maybe 1 or 2 of you were making something of your own. I think we could have made a bar chart. And a bar chart, again, is I know something you will have encountered in previous year groups. So this might have been something you kind of thought about and remembered. This is definitely something else we could have used. So that was just a quick kind of starter activity, I guess, really for our work on statistics. Maybe you've been thinking about some of those things. Hopefully you've been having a go making some of those things in the last few minutes. Let's move on then, and we'll just do a really quick recap. So we're not going to spend a huge amount of time on this because I think this is something most of you are going to remember really well. I wanted to just have a really quick recap alongside just a quick discussion about our new unit of something that you will have done in year 2 and that we're going to need for this unit, and that is tally charts. Now, a tally chart is a really good way of keeping track of data. So it's a really good way of counting up data and sort of recording your information. Let's imagine that we'd all gone out to the school field and maybe it was a science lesson, and I'd asked you to count up all the ladybirds that you could see. And let's say, first of all, you saw 5, and so you wrote down 5. And then, oh, you saw another one, so you crossed that out, and you wrote 6. And then you saw another one, oh, got to cross that out again, and you wrote 7. And then, oh, there's some more, so oh, there's 2 more, so now we're at 9. What's the problem with my method of recording here? I'm having to cross out quite a lot, aren't I? It's not that neat a method. It's not very effective when actually I'm not getting one number straight away that I just write down and that's finished. If it's a number I'm going to be returning to and adding to as the time goes on, it's not very efficient me having to cross one out each time. And so a tally chart is a way around that. Now, a tally chart, we will literally just draw a little line for each one. So let me just show you again one way that we could be thinking about this if we were sort of, if we'd invented tally charts. I could have drawn my tally like this. And let's say, here are all my tallies for my ladybirds. Sorry, this is taking ages, apologies. Here we go, here are all my tallies for my ladybirds. And then maybe I got to the end and I said, right, now it's time for me to count them. Now, I could count those, and I'm sure I probably would get it right, but A, it would take me quite a long time, and B, I think there is the potential there to start making a little mistake, because when you start looking at just loads and loads of lines like that, your eyes start to glaze over a little bit, you get a bit bored, and you might well miscount. So there's an even more useful method of doing this, which is going to help us to count large numbers of tallies really quickly. Can you remember what it is? Let's do it together. So I can count up here and I can see there are 16 ladybirds. So let's say I wanted to represent 16. I'm going to do my first 4 as normal. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then for every 5th one, we're going to draw on what I'm going to call, for the purposes of this, a little gate along the front. Now that is 5 lines representing 5 ladybirds. There's the 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the 5th one is that gate across. And now when I'm ready to start my 6th one here, I'm going to start the same again. So I'm going to do 6, 7, 8, 9, and how am I going to do my 10th one? That's right, the little gate across the front. So that's 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and my last one there, 16. Now, the advantage of doing it like this, which is of course how tally charts are done all around the world, is now I can count really quickly, because we're all experts at our 5 times table and we're really good at counting up in 5s. And so now, rather than having to count each one individually and go, right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and wait until I've got to the end, now I can go 5, 10, 15, and one more, it's 16. So this is why tally charts are really handy, and this is how we do them. So I've got 16 in total there. So for today, there's just a little recap on tally charts. There's a few questions I'd like you to have a go at. One thing I would really encourage you to do is maybe you can use this skill around the house today. Can you make a tally chart of how many toy unicorns you've got, or how many goals you score on FIFA today, or how many backflips you did on your trampoline in the back garden? Whatever you want to count up in a tally chart, you try and use and apply this skill today. See if you can maybe do a tally chart of the number of chips on your plate at dinner. However you want to do it, try to use some tally charts today. But first of all, here are your questions. Okay, thanks then everybody. Hopefully we are completely up to speed on tally charts. We've remembered exactly how to do that. And over the coming days then in maths, we are going to be looking at some of these different strategies that we could use to represent data. So we're going to be thinking partly about tables. We're going to be looking at tally charts in a bit more detail. We're going to be looking at pictograms. We're going to be looking at bar charts. And these are all examples of the statistics and the ways of recording information that we're going to be looking at over the next few days. So have a good rest of the day, and I really look forward to seeing you back here tomorrow. Bye, everyone.